Hello and welcome back to Hudson Auto Films. Today you join me on a lovely grey English day and well, it's happened again. I have relapsed on Facebook Marketplace. But in my defence, underneath this cover lies a car which 90% of you, probably more, will have never heard of. But it does have a V8, it's got Porsche seats, it's not rusty, and that is because it's made out of fiberglass, but it's still not rusty. And well, that's it. That's all that it's got going for it. But that's better than, most of my purchases. So we're already off to a much better start than usual. But I'm not going to keep you waiting. So I'd like to introduce to the channel my Carlton Carrera. So here it is, the new project for the channel, and I think it's certainly a bit of an upgrade from the Banham, which is what we've just finished. But what is it exactly? Well, this is a Carlton, and Carlton were a small car manufacturer based up in Barnsley here in the UK. And they had two primary models, the Commando, which was this unusual 4x4 looking thing, and this, the Carrera. The Carrera ran from about 1985 to 1994, which is when Carlton shut down. Supposedly there was about 50 cars made, some of which were factory made, but most of them were kits. Of the 50 or so, there's about 10 which I believe are still in existence, and 3 which are running. So there's really not many of these about. There's hardly any information about Carlton online, and obviously there's no real owners club or following or anything like that. They are one of the many companies from the 70s, 80s, 90s who made these unique specials that has basically just been lost to time. What's particularly interesting about this Carlton is supposedly it was the factory demo car. Now, when I bought it, that's what I was told, and I've seen this car listed for sale over the last several years, and it's always been sold as the factory demo car. Now, that would be very hard to prove, but it does come with a lot of history, and there's lots of elements which do seem to align with that fact. Whether it is or not is going to be quite tricky to prove, but either way, I just think this thing is so cool. Construction-wise, it is quite a simple ladder chassis and then a single piece fiberglass body with an inbuilt roll cage. It really is a proper job. I've been around a lot of kit cars and, these specials, which I do like a lot, but for the most part, they are terribly built and they're just kind of thin fiberglass slapped onto existing body panels from other cars and donors and all this sort of thing. And they're scary, but this is a great example of how good they can be. It really is well crafted and very bespoke as opposed to trying to make things fit. Obviously the glass comes from other cars, but for the most part it is Carlton. But my two favourite things about the car are located in the front. One is the engine, and the second is how you get to the engine. Clamshell. So here is our mighty and, well, rather crusty Rover V8. Now, I was told by the seller that the car does run. In fact, he said it runs lovely, but he was a man of very few words and overall was quite annoyed at the price that he was selling the car for, which is something we'll talk about later. So I couldn't get much information out of him, and my thoughts were the price I got it for, even if nothing works, it was still a good deal. So I hope it runs. It'd be nice if he was telling the truth, but usually that isn't the case from Facebook Marketplace. I'm not sure what litre Rover V8 is or what it's out of. I tried to run the engine numbers, but they didn't really make sense. So I'm sure again someone will tell me that would be very helpful. Strangely, it is attached to an automatic, which seems a strange choice for a car like this, but each to their own. Now, I'm not going to tiptoe around it. The first thing we are going to do is try and start this thing and see if it really does run as well as I was told. The car didn't have a coil on when it arrived, so luckily I had one on the shelf. So I put that on, I've checked the oil, which is very good. It's got coolant, so we're just going to hope for the best. I put some fresh fuel in the tank, which was pretty empty. So let's just try this thing. happens. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but we have a Carlton Carrera that is running beautifully. There was not any smoke at all. It sounds great, it's smooth. Obviously it's really loud. We don't have, you know, most of the exhaust on, but this never happens. Now do we just see if it drives? I don't know. It's not in the script. Drive. We're in drive. Oh, can't hear myself think. Okay, so I just recorded a segment which I'm not sure if you even heard, because this sounds like a fighter jet, which is awesome. But it runs brilliantly. Like, temperature is perfect, smooth, no smoke. This never happens ever. But I tried to put it into drive, nothing. Then when I put it into reverse, at a certain kind of point in the revs, it would creep, but it was only able to move just at that very high point in the revs. So it's likely got basically no fluid in the gearbox. So I think we just need to add some fluid to the automatic gearbox and then maybe it'll work. I really would like to give this thing a good clean, as it's just tired. I don't think it's been cleaned in probably a decade. The engine is very crusty. The outside has all sorts of dirt and things growing on it. And the inside, well, it's not got a front or rear screen, so it's probably rained for many years inside the car. So it'd be nice to really clean this thing up and just get a better idea on what we're working with. But unfortunately, we don't have a water supply here at the land, so I'd have to drive it home. So, aim of the episode, we'll push this into the barn, we'll unpack it and see what parts we've got. We'll see if just adding fluid will make this thing drive, and then we'll take it home and give it a well-deserved bath. Oh, fuck. That was the hardest thing I've ever had to roll. But it is inside now and it is safe. And I think the next thing is let's just empty it out. There's loads of parts inside. So let's see what we've got. Rear glass. I was told this is out of an MGB. Another portion of the dashboard. It's a double of what we've already got. I think the dashboard's Cortina. Not sure. Front glass, which I think is out of a Capri. A water-filled tyre, this can go straight outside. Tail lights, one of which is full of water. I believe these come out of an Opel. I think, yeah, and they're just flips upside down. So apparently these are quite hard to get hold of, so we'll have to fix them if they're buggered. This one is literally full of water, but the water is sealed in. Wow. 2 fiberglass air intakes, probably somewhere from the front. Some more bits of fiberglass, which We'll find out where they go. A strut and some sort of trim, some door rubbers, very curly exhaust, something in bubble wrap from Retro Car Parts. It is another light, excellent. So I assume we've got a broken light and a replacement. What is in here? Ah, we have a K&N, or what's left of a K&N, airbox. Some sort of sound deadening or something. With a door card, I assume again Cortina, someone will tell me. Oh, fuck. Right, what excitement. We have wheel nuts, another indicator, excellent. Another fuel cap, we love it. A selection of wipers, probably none of which fit. Another gas strut, that'll be for the boot. What are these? Window winders from, I assume, Cortinas. We have a gear badge, that's quite cool. Just lots of bits of trim. I'm not sure if the seats are actually connected, so no. Let's get these out too whilst we're at it. Seat. Well, other than a bunch of dirt and screws and little bits of wood, that's the extent. So not bad of a haul, but quite easy actually. A lot of cars I've owned will be full of stuff. And when I was younger and I first started getting classic cars, I thought it was a great deal to find all of these nuts and bolts and these extra bits. And now the older I get and the more junk I've got, I realise actually just having a few bits that you actually need and a few spares is more than enough. Like I said, I'm pretty sure these are Porsche 911 seats or some sort of Porsche seats. A Porsche person will tell me, but they look okay. They look pretty tired. There's no rips or anything by the looks of it, but they just need a very good clean and treatment. But they look pretty good actually. Okay, so there we have it. The interior is cleaned out. Well, stripped out, not cleaned out. It's still a bit messy in there, but all the parts are out. There wasn't a huge amount with it, which is quite nice actually. There's not too much junk I've inherited as part of buying this car. But yeah, not much to say really. There's a lot of space in there, a lot of fiberglass, and well, that's it. So the next job on our journey to get this thing driving, we need to get it up in the air, get it on some jack stands, and we can have a proper look at the underside, see what state it's in. Hopefully good. There's not a huge amount that can go wrong on these. It's a very basic box section chassis. And then we'll be able to put some new gearbox fluid in, and then hopefully it will drive into the sunset, because that always works. But before we go any further, I want to take 1 minute out and talk about today's sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by the good people at Adrian Flux Insurance. If you didn't already know, Adrian Flux are the leaders in all things unique. Whether it's a custom car, a classic car, a kit car, an import, or even just your daily driver, Adrian Flux will have you covered. I've been using them for years on my classic cars, and as things have got slightly more weird and wonderful, they have helped me even more. As of right now, they're taking care of the 4x4 Aston, the Banham, and soon they'll be taking care of the Carlton as well. So with Adrian Flux, no vehicle or case is too unique, and I'm a living example of that. But not only are they great with vehicles that are unique from the get-go, they're great at taking care of all of the modifications you might want to add on to your unique vehicle. The Carlton is a great example. Even though this was very special from the beginning, lots of things have happened to it over the years. It's had definitely new wheels. The engine was swapped out by Carlton later on when they upgraded the demo. So it's got a V8 now. It had a special interior, all of this sort of thing. What a lot of people don't know is you have to tell your insurer all of this information. And the second you tell your insurer that you've modified your car in any such way, a lot of them don't want anything to do with it. But Adrian Flux are more than happy to take all sorts of modifications into account when they create your policy, which is very important because if you unfortunately do need to claim and something isn't on file, well, you can get into a lot of trouble. So talk to the experts, get a proper quote from the people who actually know how to deal with this stuff. But like I said, I've been using Adrian Flux for years, long before this channel, and they have helped me as a young classic car enthusiast, all the way to a weird classic car enthusiast, and I cannot recommend them enough. So huge thank you to Adrian Flux. Please do check them out below. They are the best in the business. Anyway, let's get back onto this thing. Don't you just love cars? Well, it did overheat, which is not the end of the world, but obviously, as you saw, it's still not driving. I emptied out all the old fluid. I checked the filter, which is a metal filter, which looked basically brand new, which makes me think someone has been here relatively recently trying to tackle this problem. Put new fluid in and, well, nothing changed. The car maybe got another inch or so of movement than before. So there's some progress, but we are a long way from being able to drive this thing home to give it a wash. Feeling a little bit defeated, I approached the forums, and for the most part, people seem to think it was either clutch or time to rip apart the gearbox in a much more intensive way. But a few people suggested it might be the bands. I don't really know much about gearbox bands, but basically on either side of the gearbox there is two bands, or one each side, and you can adjust them. And I've been advised a kind of base spec for them, so there's a chance maybe they are just out of kilter and that will allow this thing to drive. Not feeling totally optimistic. The other thing is, because of the way this car is built, everything is very compact, it's very low. You've got no access to the gearbox either side, or really anything. You've got amazing access to the engine, but the gearbox is totally locked off. So we're going to have to cut a couple of holes in the gearbox tunnel, one each side, and hopefully get access to the bands, put them into the standard spec, and then maybe it'll drive. If this doesn't work, next week we'll be pulling the engine and gearbox, which, I mean, it means we can have a proper clean-up of everything. We can have more access when we clean the body and do body work and paint this thing. But yeah, I had hoped that I wouldn't have to rip it apart quite as much as I might have to. But let's not think about that just yet. Let's cut some access holes and see if we can get this thing to drive. The prop connects here, so I'm quite a bit too far back. Anyway, more up there, I think. I'm not good at this. If you look in there, you can see it's double skinned, and then you can kind of see the gearbox in there. But what I've noticed, I pulled some of this out, and it's kind of just in there is what we need, and that is single skinned. So I think if I can unbolt the dash, which looks like it's just kind of a couple of bolts holding it in, I can then get better access to that area, cut a hole in the top, and maybe reach either side. I also noticed quick release. Okay, so the dashboard is out. Amazingly, none of these wires were actually connected to it. We had 4 wires going to an earth, which was on the bottom of the dash, but the rest of these weren't going anywhere, which is a little bit worrying. I mean, but yeah, especially with old fiberglass and all that sort of thing. But we now can see what we're working with and what we're not working with. We now have this access area, which is single skinned. So I'm going to cut that open. We had the part of the air conditioning system there, which I don't think I'm going to put back into the car, so because I want this to be quite stripped out and simple. So we're going to cut an access there, and hopefully we'll get to our bands. So I cut this out, which I will definitely need to use, but I thought I'd cut a little bit on the side, and as you can see, the band is just there. It's a little bit covered in cobwebs and dirt, but I'm going to do another small access on the driver's side, and then we should have pretty good access to it, which will be good. Unfortunately, there's not much of the car left, but we can access the bands, so happy days. So first there's the locking nut I need to undo. Then there's this weird square-headed bolt that I need to tighten up to 5 foot-pounds. Then I tighten the locking nut again. So, yeah. Oh, that was very loose. That's promising, I suppose. So as always, I'm rather skint, and annoyingly I had to spend £30 on getting a set of these tap sockets because, as I said, the end of the band is square. So I'm going to use these once and then never have to use them again probably. But yeah, tap sockets. I've got every other size tap socket. I've got an M12, I've got an M14. I need an M13. Okay, so we're having issues again. So the retaining bolt came out absolutely fine and is quite free. You can spin it, that is all fine, but the retaining bolt has welded itself with rust to the band. And because we don't have the correct size tap socket and the access is appalling, I cannot separate them. I've drenched it in WD-40, but I'm not even sure that we're going to be able to get at it without removing the gearbox. It's just, yeah, it's just such a tight spot, and trying to get big sockets in and trying to do anything remotely intricate is just, you know, especially when you're using more than one spanner or anything, it's just, there's not enough space. Doo-doo. Well, maybe it was a little bit ambitious to think we could drive this thing home into the sunset, but we know what we need to do, and that's looking like pulling the engine and gearbox. If anybody has any bright ideas, please do comment them below, and that doesn't include scrapping it, but I really just can't see how we can get access to everything we need to without pulling it all. Another thing I've kind of looked into further is I'm not even sure the bands are going to help. With the BW65 gearbox, some people in the forums are indicating that the bands only impact second on the selector, and reverse and drive aren't actually anything to do with the bands. But others seem to indicate that the bands impact drive and reverse. So I'm just not even sure at this point, but if it's not the bands, then it could be clutch, it could be hydraulic, you know, it's all, you know, bigger stuff. So please comment below any suggestions, but honestly, I think next week you'll be seeing me pull this engine and gearbox out unless something miraculous happens. But regardless, this car is really cool and I'm so excited to be working on it. I'm really chuffed that the engine is running so well, and I've got a lot more car than I expected for the money. That's another thing. Please guess in the comments how much you think I paid for this. As always, it will shock you, I think. But I think I really did do well this time. We're in Banham territory for something that is a lot more of a car, I'd say. Looking ahead at this build, once we've got everything mechanically sound, I want to go for a sort of a very lightweight, stripped back, road racing sort of car. You know, as I was saying earlier, I don't know if I really want to put back in all the air conditioning and stuff like that. I really just want it to be missile switches, big engine, simple, fun. And I think there's lots of scope for that when you think of, you know, the lightweight E-types, all that sort of thing. I love that style. And obviously this is a lot more of a budget option, so I think we've got quite a lot of creative freedom. But yeah, it's going to be an exciting build. Another huge thank you to Adrian Flux, who have sponsored this episode. Sponsorships make episodes like this possible and just make YouTube sustainable, because it is not sustainable at all without sponsorship. So please do check them out. It really does mean a lot that they've taken a chance on a small creator like me. I'd highly recommend them, so go check them out. If you enjoyed this episode, please do like, share, subscribe, comment. I think that's everything. All of that sort of thing. It really does help me out. It makes YouTube push these episodes further, Again, it makes this YouTube thing more sustainable. If you'd like to support the channel further, I've linked my Patreon and the merch store down below. All proceeds go into these weird builds and enable me to keep making these poor decisions. But regardless, I'm just grateful that you're watching. So, until next time, take care, and I'll see you then.